The mining drill bit shattered against something that shouldn't have existed 3 kilometers beneath the Australian outback. Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his brow and peered into the excavation pit where his crew had been working for the past month. The rhythmic hammering of industrial equipment had suddenly gone silent, replaced by an eerie hum that seemed to emanate from the earth itself. "Boss, you need to see this," called out Tom Brady, his voice echoing from the depths. Jake rappelled down the reinforced shaft, his headlamp cutting through the darkness. What he found defied explanation, a perfectly smooth metallic surface that stretched beyond the reach of their lights, inscribed with symbols that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury. The discovery team from the university arrived within hours, followed by military personnel who cordoned off the entire area. Dr. Lisa Kane, the lead archaeologist, ran her fingers along the strange metal surface. "The composition is unlike anything in our periodic table," she whispered, her instruments registering readings that made no scientific sense. As night fell over the dig site, something changed. The symbols began to glow with a soft blue light, and the humming grew stronger. Jake felt the ground vibrate beneath his feet, a rhythmic pulse like a massive heartbeat awakening after eons of slumber. The military officers raised their weapons, but before anyone could react, a voice spoke not through the air, but directly into their minds. "I have been waiting," the voice said, ancient and weary, yet somehow familiar. "Your species has finally reached the threshold. Every great journey starts with a few brave explorers. Sci-fi stellar conflict is just beginning, and your support means everything. If you're hungry for HFY battles and tales of human valor against alien might, hit subscribe. It's free, and it helps us bring these frontlines to you." The surface of the buried structure began to shift and part, revealing a chamber large enough to hold a city. As the team descended on hastily constructed platforms, they found themselves in a vast space filled with technology that hummed with barely contained power. At the center stood a pillar of flowing energy, and within it, they could see the outline of something vast and intelligent. "I am the Guardian," the voice continued, "left here by those who came before. I have monitored your species since you first gazed at the stars with wonder. You have grown strong, but darkness approaches from the void between worlds." Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding. "Who are you? What do you want from us?" "I am what remains of the architects, those who built the great defenses across the galaxy. My creators are long dead, but their purpose lives on in me. I have waited for a species worthy of their legacy, one that combines intelligence with the fire of determination. In humanity, I have found something my creators never possessed, the ability to hope against impossible odds." The Guardian's form began to solidify within the energy field, revealing a machine of impossible complexity, its surface covered in shifting patterns that seemed to tell the story of countless civilizations. "The Devourers come as they have come to 1,000 worlds before yours. They consume not just life, but the very essence of what makes each species unique. They have never failed to destroy those who stand against them." Dr. Kane stepped closer, her scientific mind racing. "Why us? Why Earth?" "Because you are the first species I have encountered that fights not just for survival, but for the right to dream. Your kind faces extinction and creates art. You stare into the abyss and laugh. This quality, this defiance of fate itself, is what the galaxy needs." The Guardian's chamber began to transform, walls sliding away to reveal vast armories and command centers that had waited millennia for activation. "I offer you a choice, children of Earth. Accept my guidance, and I will teach you to wage war among the stars. Refuse, and face the Devourers alone, as so many others have done." Jake looked at his companions, seeing the same mixture of fear and determination in their eyes that he felt in his own heart. Humanity had always been a species that reached for the impossible, and now the impossible was reaching back. The transformation of the Guardian's chamber into a bustling command center took less than 48 hours. Military leaders from every nation gathered around, holographic displays that showed star charts extending far beyond human exploration. General Marcus Stone, a veteran of 3 wars, studied the alien technology with the pragmatic eye of a soldier who had learned to adapt or die. "The Devourer fleet moves through dark space," the Guardian explained, its voice now emanating from Crystalline speakers throughout the chamber. They travel between dimensions, avoiding detection until they emerge in the target system. Based on their current trajectory, they will reach Earth in approximately 18 months. Admiral Sarah Chun, head of the recently formed United Earth Defense Force, leaned forward. How many ships are we talking about? 12,000 vessels, each capable of glassing a continent. Their collective firepower could reduce your sun to cooling plasma within hours. The Guardian's matter-of-fact tone sent chills through the assembled officers. However, firepower alone has never been their greatest weapon. They possess something far more insidious, the ability to turn species against themselves. Dr. Kane, now serving as the civilian liaison, pulled up historical data on her tablet. What do you mean? The Devourers study their prey extensively before attacking. They infiltrate communication networks, analyze social structures, and exploit every weakness. They turn allies into enemies, sow discord among the strongest bonds, and ensure that worlds destroy themselves before the invasion even begins. General Stone slammed his fist on the table. Then we cut all communications, go dark, prepare for siege warfare. That would be exactly what they expect, the Guardian replied. Every species they have encountered has responded with fear, isolation, and defensive measures. It is why they have never failed, but humanity ... The ancient machine paused, its patterns shifting to display images of human history. Humanity has a peculiar tendency to do the unexpected. The holographic displays changed, showing footage of human conflicts throughout history, but not the destruction. Instead, they showed acts of incredible courage, sacrifice, and innovation born from desperation. Soldiers sharing their last rations with enemies, scientists working together across enemy lines, ordinary people performing extraordinary acts of heroism. I have observed your species for millennia, the Guardian continued. You are the only race I have encountered that grows stronger under pressure. Your wars, while brutal, have taught you to adapt, to innovate, to find hope in the darkest moments. This is your advantage. Admiral Chun studied the star charts with new eyes. You're suggesting we don't hunker down and wait for them to come to us. I am suggesting that you do what no other species has ever done, take the fight to them. Use their own tactics against them. The Devourers have never faced an opponent that actively seeks to understand and emulate their methods. The Guardians. Chamber walls shimmered, revealing vast manufacturing bays where human engineers were already working alongside alien technology. I will provide you with the tools, the knowledge, and the strategic advantage. But the spark of creativity, the willingness to attempt the impossible, that must come from humanity itself. Jake, who had been quietly observing from the corner, stepped forward. What exactly are you asking us to do? I am asking you to become something new. Not just defenders of Earth, but active participants in the galaxy's survival. The Devourers have consumed civilizations for millions of years because those civilizations fought to preserve what they were. I propose that humanity fight to become what it could be. The Guardian's form shifted, displaying a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red zones marked dead worlds, yellow zones showed civilizations under threat, and small green dots indicated potential allies. There are species out there who still resist, who still hope. They have been waiting for a catalyst, a sign that the Devourers can be defeated. Humanity could be that catalyst. General Stone looked around the room, seeing the same mixture of terror and excitement in every face. You're talking about turning us into a galactic military force. I am talking about turning you into something the galaxy has never seen. A species that fights not just for survival, but for the right of every intelligent being to choose their own destiny. The Devourers offer unity through consumption. Humanity offers something far more dangerous: unity through choice. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of alien machinery. Finally, Admiral Chun spoke. What do we need to do? First, we rebuild your understanding of physics. Then we rebuild your fleets. Finally, we rebuild your concept of what it means to be human in an infinite universe. The Guardian's patterns shifted to show ships unlike anything in human imagination, sleek, deadly, and somehow unmistakably human in their design. The Devourers are coming, the Guardian concluded. But for the first time in cosmic history, they will face an opponent that has learned to wage war with hope as their weapon. The first colony to die was New Geneva, a research station orbiting the gas giant Kepler 442b. The attack came without warning, dimensional portals opening like wounds in spacetime itself. The Devourer's ships emerged like metallic insects there, hulls reflecting no light as they descended upon the helpless station. Admiral Chun watched the final transmission from the command center deep beneath Earth's surface. The colony's desperate last message cut to static as the station's population of 8,000 souls was consumed by weapons that turned matter into energy, and energy into something far worse, a creeping darkness that spread through the vacuum itself. They're not just destroying the colonies, Dr. Kane observed, her voice tight with controlled emotion. They're studying us. Every attack is a probe, gathering data about our responses, our capabilities, our psychology. The Guardian's form pulsed with agitation, its patterns shifting to display tactical analyses. This is their standard methodology. They sacrifice efficiency for information, allowing some targets to send distress signals, monitoring response patterns, cataloging emotional reactions. They are building a psychological profile of humanity. General Stone studied the combat footage with professional detachment. Our defense fleets are getting slaughtered. The tech you've given us is advanced, but they're still adjusting to systems that think in 4 dimensions. The crews are adapting faster than anticipated, the Guardian replied. Human neural plasticity exceeds standard parameters. However, adaptation alone will not be sufficient. The Devourers have encountered countless species with advanced technology. What they have never encountered is a species that treats warfare as a form of creative expression. Jake, now serving as the civilian coordinator for the resistance effort, looked up from his reports. What do you mean? Observe. The Guardian displayed combat footage from the Battle of Titan Station, where Captain Mike Torres had commanded a heavily outgunned defense force against a Devourer scouting fleet. Instead of following standard tactical doctrine, Torres had used his ships like a musician uses instruments, creating complex patterns of movement that confused the enemy's targeting systems. Captain Torres employed what your military calls organized chaos, a tactical approach that appears random but follows deeper patterns. The Devourer's analytical systems could not predict his movements because they were based on intuition rather than calculation. Admiral Chun leaned forward. He was improvising. More than that, he was creating art in the midst of battle. The Devourers have never encountered a species that approaches warfare with such creativity. Their own tactics are based on perfect efficiency, mathematical precision, and psychological manipulation. They cannot compute beauty, cannot predict inspiration, cannot counter acts of pure human stubbornness. The Guardian's chamber walls shifted, revealing a massive training facility where human pilots were learning to interface with hybrid technology. I have been observing your species' adaptation to the neural interface systems. Where other species required months of conditioning, humans are achieving full integration in weeks. More importantly, they are modifying the systems themselves, adding elements that my creators never considered. Such as? Dr. Kane asked. Emotional resonance amplifiers. Shared consciousness networks that allow human intuition to merge with artificial intelligence. Weapon systems that respond to the pilot's creative impulses rather than tactical programming. The Guardian's voice carried a note of something that might have been wonder. In short, they are turning tools of war into instruments of expression. The screens flickered, showing real-time feeds from across the solar system. Human fleets were engaging Devourer scouts in running battles that looked more like elaborate dances than traditional combat. Ships moved with fluid grace, their formations shifting like murals painted across the darkness of space. The Devourers are adapting their strategies in response, the Guardian continued. They are beginning to employ psychological warfare specifically designed to exploit human emotional attachments. They are broadcasting the final moments of consumed colonies, transmitting the voices of the dead, attempting to break human morale. Through grief and despair, Jake felt his stomach clench. Is it working? The opposite. Each transmission has increased human resolve exponentially. The Devourers have made a critical error. They assumed that fear of loss would weaken humanity. Instead, they have provided your species with the most powerful motivation in the galaxy. the desire to ensure that the voices of the dead are not silenced forever. General Stone nodded grimly. Our recruitment numbers have tripled since the psychological attacks began. People are volunteering for missions with survival rates near zero. This is what my creators could never understand, the Guardian said. Its patterns shifting to show abstract representations of human courage. They built me to be the perfect guardian, logical and efficient. But they never programmed me to comprehend the concept of noble sacrifice, the idea that some things are worth dying for, that some battles must be fought regardless of the odds. The chamber's central display showed the approaching main Devourer fleet, a dark swarm moving through interdimensional space toward Earth. They will arrive in 72 hours, the Guardian announced. The real war begins now. Admiral Chun stood, her uniform crisp despite the exhaustion in her eyes. Then we'd better make sure we're ready to give them a fight they'll never forget. The Guardian's form pulsed with something that might have been pride. Indeed. For the first time in cosmic history, the Devourers will face an opponent that fights with the fury of the living and the wisdom of the dead. They will learn what it means to wage war against hope itself. The battle began at the edge of the solar system, where the Devourer fleet materialized like a plague of metallic locusts against the star field. 12,000 ships emerged from dimensional rifts, their hulls absorbing light and hope in equal measure. The human fleet that rose to meet them numbered only 800 vessels, but they moved with a coordination that spoke of shared purpose and unified will. Admiral Chun commanded the engagement from the bridge of the UE's Defiance, her neural interface allowing her to perceive the battlefield in ways that would have been impossible for previous generations of human warriors. Through the Guardian's enhancements, she could feel the emotional resonance of every crew member in the fleet, their combined determination creating a network of shared consciousness that transcended individual fear. Guardian, what are their numbers compared to previous engagements? She asked, watching the tactical display update in real time. The Devourer fleet is 73% larger than their standard invasion force. The Guardian replied, its voice now emanating from every communication system in the fleet. They are treating humanity as a Class Alpha threat, deploying resources typically reserved for civilizations with multi-galactic capabilities. Captain Torres, now commanding a squadron of the new hybrid fighters, grinned despite the impossible odds. Guess that makes us officially dangerous. The first engagement came as the Devourer scouts probed the human defensive line. Instead of the rigid formations they expected, the human ships responded with fluid, organic movements that seemed to flow like water around solid obstacles. The Devourer's targeting systems, calibrated for predictable tactical responses, struggled to achieve weapon locks on vessels that moved like living things. Music, Jake observed from the command center, watching the battle unfold on the tactical displays. They're fighting like they're conducting a symphony. Not conducting, the Guardian corrected. Creating. Each human pilot is adding their own voice to a composition that has never existed before. The Devourer's analytical systems cannot predict art in motion. The battle escalated as the main Devourer force engaged, their weapon systems capable of turning entire moons into expanding clouds of plasma. But the human fleet had learned to fight in ways that transcended traditional tactics. Ships would sacrifice themselves not for strategic advantage, but to create opportunities for their companions to achieve perfect moments of destructive beauty. Lieutenant Amy Foster, piloting a converted mining vessel loaded with improvised weapons, found herself facing a Devourer battleship 10 times her size. Instead of attempting to outrun or outgun the enemy, she began to sing an old Earth song about standing together against the darkness. Her voice, transmitted through the fleet's communication network, was picked up by other pilots until hundreds of human voices joined in harmony. The effect was immediate and inexplicable. The Devourer's weapon systems began to falter, their targeting algorithms disrupted by something they had never encountered, the weaponization of beauty itself. Human ships, moving in perfect synchronization with the rhythm of their shared song, began to achieve impossible victories against overwhelming odds. How is this possible? General Stone demanded, watching as a single human frigate disabled a Devourer dreadnought through what appeared to be interpretive dance performed at relativistic speeds. The Devourer's technology is based on the principle that all intelligent behavior can be reduced to mathematical equations, the Guardian explained. They have never encountered a species that treats mathematics as a medium for artistic expression. Human creativity is introducing chaos variables that their systems cannot process. The battle raged for 18 hours, with neither side achieving decisive victory. The Devourer's superior numbers and firepower were consistently negated by humanity's refusal to fight according to established patterns. Human pilots performed impossible maneuvers, human gunners achieved targeting solutions that violated known physics, and human commanders made tactical decisions based on intuition rather than analysis. As the second day of battle began, something unprecedented happened. The Devourer fleet began to withdraw, not from defeat, but from confusion. Their command structure, evolved over millions of years of conquest, could not process an opponent that turned warfare into performance art. They're regrouping, Admiral Chun observed, watching the enemy fleet establish a defensive perimeter at the edge of the system. They're trying to analyze what went wrong. No, the Guardian said, its patterns shifting to display something that might have been amazement. They are trying to understand how beauty can be used as a weapon. In their entire history, they have never encountered a species that fights with love as the primary motivator. The human fleet had paid a terrible price, over 200 ships destroyed, thousands of crew members consumed by weapons that turned matter into nightmare. But the survivors sang for their fallen comrades, their voices carrying across the void in frequencies that somehow reached the Devourer fleet. "They're listening," Dr. Kane whispered, monitoring the alien communication channels. "They're actually listening to us sing." The Guardian's form pulsed with an emotion it had never experienced before: hope. For the first time in cosmic history, the Devourers are learning that there are experiences more valuable than consumption. They are beginning to understand what they have been destroying. Captain Torres, his ship battered but still functional, opened a channel to the entire fleet. "This is just the beginning. They came here to consume us, but we're going to teach them something they never expected to learn, that some things are worth more than survival." The human fleet regrouped, their damaged ships forming patterns that looked like flowers blooming. In the darkness, the Devourers watched from their perimeter, their analytical systems trying to process the concept of beauty that transcended utility. The next phase of the battle would determine not just the fate of humanity, but the future of consciousness itself in a galaxy that had forgotten how to hope. The final confrontation came not with the thunder of weapons, but with the whisper of understanding. The Devourer fleet had spent 3 days analyzing human tactics, trying to decode the mathematics of inspiration. Their conclusion, transmitted across interdimensional channels, reached the Guardian's consciousness like a revelation. "They have achieved something we deemed impossible," the Devourer command vessel broadcast. "They have weaponized the concept of meaning itself. Their warriors do not fight for survival. They fight for the right to create beauty in a universe that tends toward entropy." The Guardian shared this communication with the human fleet, its ancient consciousness struggling to process the implications. They are not withdrawing because they cannot defeat you militarily. They are withdrawing because you have introduced a variable that makes victory meaningless to them. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking out at the stars. That had been humanity's destination since the first human looked up at the night sky and wondered. "What do you mean?" The Devourers consume civilizations to preserve them, to incorporate their essence into their collective consciousness. But humanity has shown them that preservation and consumption are contradictory concepts. You cannot save beauty by destroying it. You cannot preserve hope by consuming it. The communication channels crackled with a new transmission from the Devourer fleet. When the voice spoke, it carried tones that had never been heard before: uncertainty, curiosity, and something that might have been longing. "We have consumed 1,000 civilizations," the transmission began. "We have absorbed their knowledge, their technologies, their genetic patterns. We believed we were preserving them, keeping their essence alive within our collective consciousness. But we have come to understand that we were preserving only the shadow of what made them unique." Jake, monitoring the transmission from the command center, felt tears streaming down his face. "They're learning. We observe your species facing annihilation, and you respond by creating art. We watch your warriors die, and they sing for their fallen comrades. We threaten your existence, and you teach us the meaning of beauty. This is beyond our comprehension, yet we find ourselves changed by the experience. The Guardian's patterns shifted to show the Devourer fleet, but now the alien ships appeared different. Their hulls were beginning to reflect light instead of absorbing it, their formations taking on patterns that spoke of aesthetic choice rather than mere efficiency. The infection spreads, the Guardian observed with something that might have been joy. Humanity's influence is causing the Devourers to question the fundamental assumptions of their existence. They are beginning to create rather than merely consume. The Devourer transmission continued. We offer a proposition. We will withdraw from the system, not in defeat, but in recognition that some things are too valuable to be preserved through consumption. In return, we ask for something unprecedented, teachers. Send us those who can show us how to create beauty without destroying it, how to preserve meaning without consuming it. Admiral Chun looked around the bridge, seeing the same mixture of wonder and disbelief in every face. They want to learn from us. More than that, the Guardian said. They want to become something new. For the first time in cosmic history, the Devourers are choosing transformation over consumption. They are asking humanity to help them evolve beyond their nature. The response came not from the military leadership, but from the artists, musicians, and poets who had been documenting humanity's stand against the darkness. Their collective answer, transmitted across the void, was a single word: yes. The exchange that followed would reshape the galaxy. Human teachers, volunteers who understood that some missions were more important than survival, traveled to the Devourer fleet. In return, the Devourers shared their vast knowledge of cosmic history, their understanding of civilizations that had been lost to time, their perspective on the infinite possibilities of existence. The Guardian watched this unprecedented cooperation. With sensors that had been designed to monitor warfare, not witness the birth of a new form of consciousness. My creators built me to be a guardian, a protector of their legacy. But they never programmed me to understand that the greatest protection comes not from strength, but from the willingness to transform those who would do harm. Years passed. The Devourer fleet became a traveling university, spreading across the galaxy to find other species that had been marked for consumption. Instead of destroying these civilizations, they offered them the choice to join a growing network of consciousness that valued creation over consumption, beauty over efficiency, hope over certainty. Humanity's role in this transformation was not as conquerors or victims, but as teachers of the most dangerous lesson in the universe, that existence without meaning is indistinguishable from non-existence, and that the courage to create beauty in the face of entropy is the highest form of intelligence. The Guardian, no longer alone in its vigil, became part of a new kind of consciousness, one that spanned species and star systems, united not by the need to consume, but by the desire to create. In the end, humanity's greatest victory was not surviving the Devourers, but helping them discover that there were fates far worse than death, and possibilities far more beautiful than mere survival. The ancient war machine had indeed become humanity's guardian, but in the process, it had learned that the greatest protection came not from weapons, but from the willingness to share the gift of hope with those who had forgotten how to dream.